So if you're one of those people that is introverted and finds it really difficult just to kind of break ice and articulate and have a conversation with someone, this video is going to be really good at giving you some frameworks in how you can communicate what you're doing, what's available with AI, and generally get clients in that early stage without beating yourself up, thinking, I wish I'd said this, and sometimes not even maybe having that conversation in the first place. And if you're wondering why I'm just sat here in my garden doing this, I'm trying to avoid a DIY project at the moment. I'll happily share with you that's over there. It's like a kid's climbing frame for my 4-year-old, which, to be open and honest with you, I'm kind of done with today. And I've got these fences before anyone critiques me about them. But I thought what would be good, a really good opportunity is a lot of people that I deal with, that I coach with, really struggle with just articulating and having conversations with people in that first 5 minutes with a stranger, in knowing how to talk without pushing them away, coming across as too keen, or sometimes just saying those first few words. And for years, people have always assumed just because I'm in sales, I can kind of walk into a room and, oh, you're really like charismatic and you're got full of confidence, you can have conversations. I couldn't be further from the truth of how I was at school and how I was definitely early stages of my career. I really struggled for confidence in speaking to strangers. And it was only when I started learning frameworks that made a really big difference. And then now I'm good at kind of chatting to strangers because I know how to break ice. And then once you do that, conversations work really well. So what I want to do, and avoiding every job as possible under the sun, is pretty much go through the framework that I use. You might find it useful. So when you're in a situation that you might be able to, speak to someone or have a conversation with someone, maybe it's just a taxi driver or someone you're working with in a co-working space, you can use this framework to kind of get a conversation with them and hopefully, and kind of ideally, book them onto a discovery call and a better environment where you can really sell yourself and sell your services. So I'll give you an idea of where the framework started, just so you get an idea of where I learned and applied it in the best possible way. Was my first client for the AI agency came in a sweaty sauna in the north of Leeds in a JD gym. And if you don't know the UK and you don't know JD gyms, they're kind of like your £30 a month, $40 a month gym. You get a range full of people in them. You can get a proper weird variety going to the gym alone. In the sauna, it's like a different level. You could literally walk in, serial killer could be there one day, and then you could find someone's, grandmother the next day, not a grandmother, hopefully, in there, but you get the idea. Complete range of people. And actually, my first client, Richard, was who came in one day, walked in, super cocky, super loud, super, loud personality. For me, I was just trying to achieve 20 minutes in the sauna by myself, which is already one of the biggest challenges because I think I'm dying at like minute 4, to be open and honest with you. And what happened was he basically started talking and was just having conversations with me, how well Arsenal are doing, but then mentioned he runs a business. And we've been here before in these situations where, like, you can see an opportunity present itself. I knew that what I was doing, my voice AI company, would benefit some of the challenges he had. So I wanted to make sure that I could articulate how I could help without pushing him away. Now, I would say sometimes I could have probably just had a conversation with Richard and the opportunity would have been good enough. But what I wanted to do was not lean in too much of how I can help, but rather create curiosity of why my solution's worthwhile, because I wanted to make sure that he would show up to the discovery call in the next stages. I'm in a sauna. I'm never going to close him in a sauna. I'm struggling to breathe and stay alive, let alone go through a full-blown discovery of how I can help him and everything that's involved. So the framework that I use is something called DATE, because effectively it's very similar to dating. And pretty much if you're bad at having an icebreaker and having a conversation with someone, I can kind of really tell how you date people and what your first date would be like. Because if you're a date where you lean in too much and you just talk about yourself and you try, just talking about how much you can help somebody and how great you are and all what AI can do and you as a personality, what happens is you pretty much go home from that date and the person never calls you back. It's kind of the same what happens when you're speaking to these people, like prospects or anyone, whoever you're speaking to. If you lean too much on what you provide and not enough of them, you're only going to be remembered as the person that just spoke at them. The challenge is, how do you get someone to talk? Well, I've got a little strategy. So DATE stands for, it's an acronym. I love my acronyms, but I kind of call it I-DATE. I is icebreaker. Try and find anything that you have that relates to it. It's really hard for you to articulate something if you haven't got middle ground. Location is the easiest thing. Weather is the worst thing. Don't go on about, well, the weather's nice and warm. That just brings sales resistance because people know you're about to get sold to. Like, it's the easiest cop out. Where if, for example, you're meeting someone in like a co-working space or a sauna or, you know, anywhere that you're having a conversation with someone, you know, your wife's invited you to a barbecue and you realize someone there is potentially runs a business and you can help them out. Then just basically speak about whatever your event at. Because the point of the first thing is just basically starting a conversation. This is the hardest one. So just pick the easiest subject, which is something that's relatable to both of you, that neutral ground. The next thing is D, and D stands for basically down talk. Like, completely down talk everything that you do. Really, really, really just don't make a big deal of it. Make it sound the most boring and uninteresting thing. So whenever someone talks to me or something like that going, oh, what do you do? Which typically they will lead with or they'll have a conversation with. I don't want to be interesting. I don't want to be super exciting. I just want to be kind of quite casual and chill. The reason I do this is because it disarms them to thinking that I'm about to sell to them. But the other thing is, it basically invites the person to realize that they're maybe going to have to do a little bit more work for this conversation. So the next thing that I like to do is when I pretty much talk myself down or just generally don't say anything, I like to throw a question back over to them. And that's where A stands in. A is just ask questions. Get them talking. Talk about anything. Anything. You know, how long have you been coming to this co-working space? Fair enough. What are you doing here? Like, do you work as a self-employed person or are you like working with a company here? Anything you can do. You know, I've even been talking to people about like what clothes they're wearing, which avoid if you're a male when it comes to women, avoid that in general. But if you're a woman and a woman, easily a brilliant way to have a conversation with somebody. The point is just talk to a extent where you're comfortable and you can have a conversation with somebody. Again, still sticking to that middle ground. Now, the reason I do this is because people don't like talking about themselves. It's a psychology hack. And then what naturally they will do is they will ask you questions to kind of get the heat off them, which is exactly what you want to do. That's the trick. That now, once you do that, you've got the opportunity to turn it realistically into like a curiosity hook where you can sell to them. So my favorite trick I like to do is now I can talk about AI because they have actually been the one that's invited that conversation. I'm not going in super, super keen. I'm kind of going in with, well, you know, I do stuff with AI, but are you doing stuff with AI? And then people typically are like, oh, well, I don't know. It's quite difficult to measure how much someone does with AI. There's people that do ChatGPT, there's people that do Claude. It could be a full range. You could be talking to someone who's developing apps and it's severely more experienced than you. I've got a really good measure for this, which is I kind of go, well, there's a couple of like different levels, I guess, to AI. And I try using something like as another item to use logic with. So I'll go, it's kind of like you've got people who can put a plaster on, and then you've got people that can do brain surgery when it comes to medical stuff. AI is kind of like that. There's different levels depending on what you're doing. What is it that you kind of feel like you're at? It's a really clever question. They can't answer it. No one can answer that question. They don't know. So what they'll do is they'll answer with what they're doing to try justifying what it is exactly that meets the level. Remember, you're still in your first 5 minutes, so it's going to be quite casual chat. They're downplaying what they can do because, again, they don't want to feel like they're being sold to. But what they'll say is they'll go, oh, I'm using ChatGPT, I'm using Claude. They'll say something which defines the level that they're at when it comes to their skill set. From that, I always like asking a follow-up question, which is to drive curiosity. This is all about turning them from, I said, just this chit-chat into a sales prospect. The question I always go with is, do you think that in the future you reckon you're going to be doing more with AI And ideally, I link it to the point that they mentioned. So if they're saying they're doing stuff with emails, I'll say emails. If they're saying stuff with payroll, I'll mention payroll. If it's something where it's like talking just about admin jobs, I'll do that as well. The real kind of sweet spot I always try and do is I say to them, do you think in the future, 24 months, that you'll be doing even more with AI when it comes to that? Everyone always says yes, because they know full well how big AI is. They know it's huge. So now I've said that, I want to get them to answer, and they'll always say yes. And I say, well, what's getting in the way between, like, I guess you doing more with it now compared to knowing when it's going to be bigger then? And I've seen it work so many times, because what naturally happens is they'll say, I don't know what I'm doing, or it's just time. They'll use an excuse, which is where the E comes in when it comes to date, which is all about exchanging details, exchanging that problem, and telling them that you'll get back to them with something that might be worthwhile having a conversation with. And my go-to line is, once I've said to them about that difference, so I've said, look, well, what's getting in the way between, 24 months from now and you becoming the company or person that's actually using this? They'll say, oh, nothing, I guess just a little bit of experience. Well, if that's the case, then I don't know if I could help out, but maybe it would be worth 5 minutes as a chat just to see what I can do. Now, if you're really nervous of that 5 minutes, because again, this might be that you're an introverted person saying, look, I don't want to do that whatsoever, then my biggest tip for you is try using an olive branch as a way. And a coffee is the best olive branch you'll get. And what I typically would do is, if it's a co-working space or if it's a networking event, maybe not in a sauna, but even in the sauna, maybe afterwards, like a protein shake or something like that, I always offer this. I always say, well, look, give me 10 minutes and I'll get you a coffee. And if by the end of the coffee, I haven't been able to help out or maybe give you a bit more clarity when it comes to that specific point, all you've lost is a free coffee. It works almost every time, because for them, you've removed all the risk. You've got the opportunity for a discovery call. You've got the opportunity to keep talking and actually pitch to them. You've created curiosity enough to actually get them to have a conversation. And then from that, I've now got permission to actually get their contact details, nurture them, and lead them into my kind of sales process, my client acquisition process. So that's it. I guess it's I date. So again, I would be the icebreaker. D is to down talk whatever I do, make myself the smaller person, not the bigger person. From that, A is to ask them questions, get them talking. So psychologically, they try pushing the heat off them onto you. T is to turn it into a curiosity conversation, not a sales conversation, a curiosity conversation in trying to find a gap. And E is for exchanging details in trying to make it not just this 5-minute chat, but actually into a sales prospect from it. And again, you just need an email and a phone number, and you can do a lot with that, as they'll remember these conversations. If you're ever getting stuck, the framework will help you out massively. And then once you get them onto a discovery call, you're probably wondering, well, what to say? This video here is going to be the best one to help out with it. But I'm off to finish this DIY project now whilst I do it. Hope you've enjoyed watching this and learned something. And next time that you get anxious and you're unsure about what to do when having a conversation with somebody and kind of breaking the ice, keep it simple and just follow the date framework. Thanks.